Hey everybody, Jonathan Broadbent here, your host of UnWoke.Academy and the Financial PMA with another weekly Wednesday live stream. I do know that for the most part, we get people who watch this after the fact. Sometimes we get some people that are able to carve out a little chunk of time, noon Wednesdays Eastern time, to have a little conversation about what's woke, what's not, what's happening in the world of Wall Street, globalist banks, finance, and follow the money. And this week, it gives me great pleasure to tease out a guest who's going to be on our show in the coming weeks, and that is Sean Tario from mark37.com. That is a website, mark37.com. You're going to want to go and check that out. I'll share a little bit of content. And also, I want to set the stage. Well, actually, here, I'll add this and let me show you what we've got here. This is the website for Mark 37. You can see it there. Sean Tario, just to tease this out in layperson's terms, he has a tech background. He worked in and around Silicon Valley and saw what was happening with technology, how it was being designed to be addictive, and in particular, addictive to kids and youth, or at least in the first conversations I've had with him, I've tended to focus in that direction because it's my perspective, my understanding that a lot of this technology is geared toward and focused on children. Hold on a second. I have a printer in my office that apparently is needing to cycle right now. So you may hear a little background noise, but I find particular problem with that. It's targeting children. And I asked the question actually in the first conversation I had with Sean Tario, is it true that many of the creators of this invasive data mining creepy tech don't allow their children to use it? And he said that's absolutely true, and it's documented in places like Silicon Valley. A lot of the people that created this technology that supposedly is great and it's going to make life easier and blah, 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 whatever, don't allow their children to use it. So that is pretty telling in my book. Well, Sean Tario decided that wasn't for him. He left and formed mark37.com in order to provide counter to that. And these are what's often referred to as ghost phones, ghost tablets, etc., that strip out a lot of or most all of the creepy data mining stuff. In order to kick things off and what I hope will be a meaningful discussion for us today, I want to share with you a post that I found from iHeart Intelligence. And that reads as follows. A student at Harrington High School in suburban Philadelphia was called into the assistant principal's office and accused of using drugs at home. The evidence? A photograph taken from his own laptop camera while he was in his bedroom. He had been eating sweets. Blake Robbins had no idea the school-issued laptop on his desk had been watching him. The Lower Merion School District had installed software on every student laptop that allowed staff to remotely activate a built-in webcam without the student knowing. Robbins had been photographed 400 times over a 2-week period. Some of the images were taken while he slept. When the full scale of it came out, the district admitted to capturing more than 56,000 images of students inside their own homes. The program had been running since 2008 for nearly 2 years. School officials had the ability to watch students through their cameras at any hour. The images were shared with school principals. Robbins and his family goes on to talk about the potential settlement. The case, known as Webcam Gate, became one of the first major legal battles over digital surveillance and student privacy in the United States, and led to changes in both federal and state law around monitoring school issued devices. No criminal charges were ever filed against any school official. This reminds me very much of data centers, flock cameras, smart meters, AI, the data centers, some people are calling them surveillance centers, you name it. We have an environment now that is invading and it's expanding very, very rapidly. That is, it calls into question our ability to remain sovereign citizens, to have privacy, to expect to exercise freedom of speech and those sorts of things. Before I go off of this webpage, I do want to get a little bit more into that, but I'm going to show you a couple of things here. I'll open up the resources tab. This is a great place to go. Just go visit mark37.com and scroll through. There's all kinds of short videos, nice bite-sized pieces. Do sign up for the newsletter. The newsletter I've found to be exceptionally informative, and I consider myself a layperson in technology, but it does tend to put things in layperson perspective. Easy to understand stuff. And in the coming weeks and months, I actually have ordered a Ghost phone. My plan is to unpack that and share with you my experiences of transitioning from a typical traditional Android phone to a think there are some terms I think I very easily misuse or misapply terms here, but I think I want to call it a cracked phone or ghost phone. It is loaded with an operating system called Graphene. According to Sean Tario, who I've come to know, like, and trust and respect, that is arguably, in his book, the most secure platform you can use. So if you have kids and you're worried about creepy tech doing nasty, creepy things to your family or loved ones, children or grandchildren, nieces, nephews, or just yourself or your peers and family, check out mark37.com, scroll around, read some of these articles, sign up for the newsletter. You've probably seen, if you're following me on social media, that a few times recently the newsletter itself has actually kind of caused the light bulb to go on, because connected to this, and I do think these are interconnected, I do a lot of follow the money. And when you're looking at the smartphones, the tablets, or what are called ed tech or education technology that's pushed into K through 12 education, the publishers behind education, the owners behind the flock cameras, the rollout and installation of smart meters, all of that stuff behind the scenes, behind just outside of public view, frequently are follow the money issues. So finding out who owns those things, tracking back, and then by all means, absolutely figuring out whether or not Wall Street's on board. Because if Wall Street is pumping money in, and that means your money, our money, 401k, IRA, etc. So a lot of times you see money flowing into these bad sorts of things. They're clearly, in my book, I know there's a lot to unpack when we get into what we call smartphones and even flock cameras and smart meters and those sorts of things. But there is a lot of money. And connected to that, there's a lot of social pressure, political pressure, and corporate pressure. And it's just sort of this unholy stew of money moving into trying to gather information and data on us, on we the people. We shouldn't want that stuff, and there are ways of avoiding it. One of them is Mark 37. So look up Sean Tario, S-E-A-N, last name T-A-R-I-O, Sean Tario. Sometimes you'll see him listed as Sean Patrick Tario. He's going to be a guest on the program. We'll record that over the next few weeks. By the way, if you follow me on Ohio Political News, where I am one of the co-hosts, Sean will be our guest this coming Sunday evening. That is Sunday, what's Sunday? The 26th. I believe his time slot is going to be 8 a.m., or excuse me, 8 p.m. on Ohio Political News. That's on Rumble, Facebook, YouTube, and Substack. So you can get a little preview. Sean and I will have a one-on-one to discuss these things and talk through. He will cover the tech side and let you know the creepy bad stuff that the tech companies are doing, big tech corporate, mega tech, I guess I want to call them. I will do my best to unpack the financial side. Who are the financials behind it? Who's backing it? And is it we the people? By the way, if you like what you see and what you hear from me in the coming weeks about Mark 37 and my experiences on a ghost phone, I'm excited about that. I've actually been looking into it for a couple of years now. I'm finally comfortable making the move because I've found a resource that I trust. If you like what you see there, the phones, tablets, laptops, etc., and end up purchasing from Mark 37, mention UnWoke. You get a discount. So just type in the coupon field, I think it's at the checkout, type in UnWoke and get a discount on anything you might do. First steps first, just make yourself aware of how invasive and dirty and ugly this technology is. Not that I want to steal any thunder from Sean Tario, but in that first conversation, he made an interesting analogy. He in the conversation with me, he asked the question, a sort of facetiously, intentionally facetiously, said, "If I know nothing," this is Sean Tario, I'm paraphrasing. He said, if I don't know anything about weapons and firearms, and I know, and I approach you and say, all I know is that if I pick it up and pull the trigger, it'll go bang, and then ask, what what firearm should I carry with me every day, an everyday carry? The answer obviously is you're not ready. You should not be talking about or considering carrying any firearm because you've not prepared yourself. And his point that he made, and it really made an impact on me hearing it put in those terms, is if you are loading your family up, especially children, with tablets, laptops, and smartphones, not knowing the dangers that they represent, and they may be significantly more harmful even than firearms. And they are much more used, certainly, by an astronomical proportion than firearms. The harm that comes from these, the harm that's designed into and emanates from these devices should be known and understood, and make yourself put yourself in a position of trying to counter some of the likely impact and detriment of these devices. So stay tuned. I'll let you know the date that that will release. I think in the coming weeks, we do have a scheduled time just to hop on camera. He's not in the same state that I am, but we will hop on camera together and have a conversation about Mark 37 technology and some of the money behind that technology. I hope you find it informative. In the meantime, do go to Mark 37. It doesn't matter if you purchase anything or subscribe to anything. I do hope that, well, the newsletter is free. At a minimum, I suggest going there and sign up for their newsletter. Scroll through, read some of those articles, share them with people that you care about. If you do decide to make that step and purchase something, don't forget to use Unwoke. I'd love to get you that discount and some connection to let Sean know that his time was well spent. with UnWoke Academy and in his interview with me. That is our weekly Wednesday. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you have a great week. Mark your calendar for next Wednesday at noon Eastern Time.